Mr. President, Senator Lugar and I have introduced this modified amendment in working with Senator Dodd and the Treasury Department and the Federal Reserve to find a way to increase America's access to their credit scores. And before I talk a little bit about the amendment, I wanted to, given that the chairman of the committee and my friend and colleague from Connecticut's on the floor, thank Senator Dodd specifically for working with me and the group of about 20 bipartisan senators to provide greater access to consumers' credit scores. Senator Dodd had a thoughtful and incisive idea about how we might be able to move this this amendment, I should say, to the floor of the Senate, and that was to provide a credit score on a transactional basis, and that's exactly what this amendment does. A credit score affects consumers' interest rates and monthly payments on home loans, and can even influence a consumer's capacity to buy a car or rent an apartment, even get phone or internet service. And our amendment would take the two consumer notices that the federal law currently requires lenders to give consumers and make sure that the credit score that was used to evaluate the consumer is disclosed to that individual. Right now, Mr. President, I found this out in the process of researching what we were trying to do. If you receive a general notice of your credit application being turned down, or if you're offered credit on less favorable terms, you don't receive a disclosure of the credit score that was actually used to determine that outcome. So under our amendment, if you're turned down for a loan or you're given a higher interest rate because of a low credit score, you now have the right to see the credit score that was used. And I know the presiding officer's interest and long experience in the world of housing and providing access to people in that way. And I know that this is something that you followed with great interest. And that's because there's a fundamental there's a fundamental principle at stake here. And that is, if your credit score is being used against you, you ought to have the right to at least see it. And I know every single American would want to improve that credit score, would want to understand how they could have a greater financial opportunities, have greater financial standing. So I want to thank Chairman Dodd, Senator Lugar, Levin, Bond, Scott Brown, Schumer, Begich, Lautenberg, and all of the 20-plus senators who helped push for this important issue. And I especially want to thank Senator Pryor for working with us to find something that everyone could agree to in this modified version, and I'm really appreciative that we were able to work it out. And as I close, Mr. President, I understand that the amendment's scheduled to be addressed Monday night, but I'd hope that we could perhaps accept it on a voice vote at the proper time as well. And with that, Mr. President, I note the absence of a quorum.
The clerk will call the roll.
President, I'd ask consent before you withhold on that unanimous consent.
Senator from Connecticut.
Well, Mr. President, I just can't thank our friend and colleague from Colorado enough. He's done just a great job, and this is a terrific idea and one that's long overdue. The presiding officer is a member of our banking committee, and we know we've talked a lot about these issues over the last couple of years. And we've had hearings, in fact, events of legislation dealing with credit scores. A lot of people have had their good names, in a sense, stolen from them as a result of some thievery that goes on with credit cards and the like, and people's credit scores have been manipulated and so forth. It's very difficult to find out where you are in all of this. You don't know. It's ironic in a way that here we are, citizens of our country, and other people are determining whether or not we're credit worthy for buying an automobile, purchasing a home, a student loan. The idea that we as consumers can't have access to these scores that people are writing up about us is, put it mildly, kind of offensive. The fact that we've even got to go through this is sort of grating, to put it mildly. And so I'm very grateful to the senator from Colorado for pursuing this. And he would have gone a bit further. I would have too, but I sense we were going to be in a problem here to get anything done at all. And the fact that we're going to have this on a transactional basis is a major step forward and may actually alleviate a good 80 or 90% of the difficulties. It's not to say there isn't room for further improvement down the road. We'll see how this works. And if it doesn't work, such as we hope it does, then there will be other steps to take to make sure people do have access to these scores so they have a good idea of where they stand and their ability to afford the things they need as a family. So you've made a significant contribution to this. We're going to have a vote on it, but I'm confident we can prevail in this, and I believe it'll be overwhelming that Democrats and Republicans, I think, share the concern that you've raised, and you've made a valuable contribution to this effort, and I want to thank you personally for it, and look forward to being supportive when this amendment comes up on the floor for a vote early next week. And I thank the senator from Colorado.
Mr. President,
Senator from Colorado.
let me again thank the chairman of the Banking Committee for his willingness to work with those of us in this bipartisan coalition. His comments are right on point, as his comments always are, and I think the senator's completely right when he suggests that as Americans have access to these credit scores, they're going to be more interested as time goes on in understanding how to build that credit score, how to strengthen it, how to be more financially literate, if you will. And Chairman has been remarkable in the time he spent on the floor and the strength that he's shown, the lack of sleep that he's endured here on the floor. And his product that many of us have contributed to will be seen, I think, by historians as a seminal moment that we put Wall Street on a more accountable basis. But we've also, under the chairman's leadership, given consumers more recourse and access. And in the end, I think that's what the chairman wanted to do and will do, is to protect consumers of all kinds, of all stripes, all over our great nation. And this is one small but important way to do that. So again, I want to thank you, Chairman Dodd, and look forward to the vote on Monday night. And I agree, I think this will have widespread support. I'll continue to ask for those votes, and I know we'll work to have a successful outcome on Monday afternoon. So thanks again, and I yield the floor, Mr. President.